Nigerians are turning out in their large numbers to cast their ballots. It's about 2.5 hours into the votes so far. In some parts, the INEC officials didn't turn up as expected at the time when the election was supposed to start at 8 o'clock. As a matter of fact, at this time, in some places, it's still the situation where they have not seen any INEC officials as at the time that I checked my information there. But let's go on. My guests are still very much here in the studio with me, Janet Mba Folabi and Dr. Fasi Yusuf. And of course, I am Ngozi Alebu. Now, let's go to the idea that voters, after casting their ballot, should stay back to ensure that they actually protect their votes. Now, that is contrary to what we heard from the IG, the acting IG of Police, Mohammed Adamu, yesterday during his joint press briefing with the INEC chairman, that Nigerians should just peacefully go cast their ballot and go home. Almost contradictory.
No, it's advisory.
Advisory.
It's advisory.
But what do you think about this whole idea that Nigerians should stay back? And is it not a recipe for chaos?
No,
if you were trying to avoid...
everybody cannot stay back, because some people will be in a hurry to go and move along with other things in their houses. But some people will want to stay back, depending on the interests you have. Depending on people have various interests. So if you are genuinely interested in waiting to see that your party wins, you want to watch and count and snap the results as they are being posted, you wait. But not everybody. You say that maybe out of 100, maybe only 10 will want to wait behind. Those who have the time and the energy to wait all day and see the end of the voting will wait. Those who have been employed, some of the parties may have also employed people to wait. Oh,
they have their party agents.
Yes. Not apart from party agents. Apart from party agents are supposed to be there to monitor the vote and see it to the end. But there are also some who are there to ensure that their votes are protected. They are without us, but they are there as observers. They are going to justify whatever has been given to them, so they will wait to the end. But I can tell you that majority will not wait.
You believe so too?
Of course. I mean, everybody cannot wait. But the important thing is, it is advisory. If you want to wait to see to the end, I mean, it's your free will. But if you decide to go home and wait for the announcement, so be it.
But if you wait, you conduct yourself in a manner that you will not be driven away. Don't conduct yourself in a manner or carry a disposition that you're looking for trouble or you want to cause trouble. You carry yourself in a very dignified manner.
Now let's talk about election observers, both international, especially international observers, quite a number of them, and the domestic observers, of course. What do you think the international observers so far would be reporting to their home countries at this point?
Well, I expect
2 hours into
I expect objectivity. I expect clear-mindedness. I expect that they will report as they see it, and they will not be clouded by any sentiments or any primordial issues, or perhaps they want to take side. So
and of course,
the
international observers, for some reason, away from the norm before now, have been at the receiving end of some level of suspicion. Do you think at the end of the day they would actually give a good account of themselves? Because you have the U.S. government saying that they actually have a level of confidence that this election will come and go freely and in a transparent manner that will be acceptable to all. Whether the process will live up to that billing is another matter.
I think that the observers who are sent here, they will report according to who sent them and who they are, the reporters themselves. You understand? I'm trying to say that the reporting depends on the reporter and who he's reporting to. There's some people
devoid of any personal sentiments.
Sometimes some observers can be biased. Some observers may not be as objective as they are expected to be, depending on who they are observing for. Why I'm saying that is, there are some international organizations that some journalists work for, and you send stories to them and they say, no, that's not the kind of story we want. We don't want a peaceful story, development stories. We want stories of chaos, of violence, of hostility. You understand the point I'm trying to make? So it's the same way with international observers. Who is sending them here? Who are they reporting to?
Well, good point. So 20 years down the line, Nigeria has been conducting elections. This is the 6th election that we're conducting. Do you think we have demonstrated or displayed maturity in a way that we'll be proud at the end of the day? That we have truly
to my mind, nothing has changed much from 1999. Rather, the stakes are getting higher and higher. And we've not talked about restructuring. We've not talked about the constitutional changes we ought to have. It was what was given to us on May 29, 1999, that we're still following. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in terms of evolving towards the promised land. Getting Nigeria to work the way it should operate.
Aren't we expecting too much? 20 years?
No, we're not expecting too much. I mean, other nations are. I mean, how many years did it take Singapore to turn around? How many years did it take Malaysia to turn around? We're not expecting too much. Rather, we've learned from other countries, the mistakes of other countries. We've learned about development issues in other countries. We've learned about the political evolution of other countries, and so many of us have been opportune to travel around the world. So if we cannot bring in those knowledge, I mean, Ghana there and there, to bear in this country, the most populous black nation in the world, then something must be wrong with us. And I think we should have moved further than this.
Do you believe so, that we should have moved further than this? I recall listening to Humphrey Nwosu, the INEC chairman,
yes,
some 26 or so years ago, and he said at the time that he
was on 2 days ago, or was it yesterday?
Yes, he was already mulling the idea of e-voting, electronic voting,
yes,
that would have taken away all these challenges that we continue to have over time when it comes to conducting the election.
I think we are slowly but steadily moving forward. We may not be moving very fast. If you move too fast, you can fall and make mistakes. But we are moving very gradually. And I think that so far, so good. By the time we have the next election, I hope that this issue of time management, which is key, which is why even when some international observers want to report, they may say elections have not started in Nigeria because of where they are observing.
That's why I asked the question.
Yes.
At 10:30, what
exactly.
do you think the international observers would be reporting?
But they will be reporting that. So we need to look at time management. If 8 o'clock should be 8 o'clock, regardless of who is managing it. I know that we are human, but if you drive them, Yakub is the one driving the vision. But not every member of his team drives or shares the same vision with him. So he has to work extra hard to ensure that his vision is actualized by making sure that it does not matter, no excuses. For instance, if you have to read news at 9 o'clock, it does not matter the traffic, you have to be here. So no excuses for not being at the polling booth at 8 o'clock and start.
Okay, so now let's even go to the issue of the ad hoc staff matter and other logistic challenges. The INEC chairman tried to give us a picture of what the ad hoc staff actually take home, especially the NYSC, the National Youth Service core members who make up a large chunk of the 1 million or so ad hoc staff that INEC had to deploy for this. At the end of the day, their take home, according to the INEC chairman, about 30,500 naira. Now, there were reports about how the condition of the NYSC,
the welfare of
their welfare and all of that, especially with the near commotion situation that happened in Calabar, where some of them didn't find their names on the list after being trained and all of that. INEC has assured that it will fix the ad hoc staff problem by today.
What they did was that they asked them to come with their mattresses. Some of them were sleeping on bare floor.
On bare floor.
So they said, bring your mattresses from the camps. So you can also go back with your mattress. So instead of you coming to sleep, that's the arrangement that INEC had with them. Yeah, so at least they will not sleep on the floor.
I think, to my mind, it's sending us back to the medieval period, Why should people be sleeping in the open? Can there be better arrangements?
Even if they are volunteers?
Yes, even if they are volunteers. You know, if you have mattresses, yes. Does that remove the fact that a mosquito will not be there? Open field classrooms. Oh, I mean, one should be treated that way.
What does this
say? I remember the Director
really,
General of the National Youth Service Corps saying that his men, and I say men now, also including ladies, should be better treated. And I think this is one of the lessons that Yaqub,
Mahmoud Yaqub,
yes, and his men should address, because this is what has been happening over the years. And at the end of the day, you take 30,000, you spend a lot of money to treat yourself of malaria, of typhoid, and all that. So I think something better should be done.
What do you think are the more sustainable ways of actually solving this logistics challenges and ad hoc staff issues that we continue to have every election cycle? A lot of people would say, look, if we actually deployed the e-voting system, a lot of these expenses would even be cut, you know, will be removed.
Yes.
And this human or manned process, manned electoral process will be reduced.
It also has its own problem of hacking and all the rest. You remember, America is still battling with its problem, and people are saying that, look, Russia was able to infiltrate into the system and all that, and we are a developing economy, and that our sophistication, our ICT has not developed to that level. Even as developed as America is, some other countries are still able to penetrate that system. So what are we going to have? It means somebody will just sit down in the comfort of his house and manipulate the electoral system, or break into the system and manipulate the figures and all that. But what I'm saying is that, for example, if you talk about this man, is there no way we can make arrangements that, look, those that will pick them, they pick them maybe because, okay, so I think, okay, some of them living with me left home since yesterday. Wouldn't there be fatigue? When people leave yesterday and they will be there, they will sleep, and according to, they said they will not be sleeping.
Somebody said our electoral process is still very much analog, that yes. 20 years down the line, Nigeria really should have moved forward,
that's the point I'm
just like you have made
yes.
That point.
Can there be a way that you collate all the information about this ad hoc staff and all the rest, and at about 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. they are picked, and as you are picking the materials and deploying the materials, you also deploy the men. So maybe they would have been there yesterday to do the final final mobilization, final training and all the rest. They go back to their respective homes. Like this, by today, by 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., because they're not supposed to be far away from home, maximum 30 minutes. But then if there are vehicles to pick them, then they could be there by 6:37. And that would be a better arrangement rather than sleeping. They will not take their bath. They will not brush. They are sleeping in the classroom. So where would they get water to take their bath?
So does that further underscore the need for a national dialogue as far as election management is concerned?
I think so.
I think it's a question of...
Okay, right now that's a live feed from Ogun. No, that's not Ogun State. The Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, is at the Victoria Garden City right here in Lagos at the Lekki Axis, where Kemi Folademo, our correspondent, is standing by to give us reports. You can see the Vice President on the queue there. I think he's the fourth or fifth person right there. Okay, where our cameras are panning and going from left to right, giving you a clear picture of the turnout of voters. It's quite impressive from where we stand here in the studio. If that's anything to go by, that Nigerians truly are. That's anything to go by. That Nigerians truly are very, very enthusiastic to cast their ballot. That is VGC on Victoria Island. That's the Victoria Garden City at the Lekki Axis of Victoria Island, where the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is on the queue waiting to cast his ballot also. You did hear earlier from Kemi Folademo, our correspondent there, that INEC officials did not necessarily turn up on time, but at the time she was giving us the report, they had begun to trickle in gradually. We'll take you back to the polling center. All right, Kemi, if you can hear me, What can you report for us? What is going on there? Now, we see that the Vice President is preparing to cast his ballot.
I can't do live with this thing. If I miss this job.
Okay, Kemi cannot hear me yet. And I can see the wife of the Vice President, Dolapo Osinbajo, also standing by her husband there, just like we have seen in the case of the president in Daura, where he voted alongside Aisha, his wife. In the case of the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar in Ajia, in Adamawa there, you saw his wife Titi also cast her ballot there. So, like we underscored earlier, it's a good indication when all the major contenders are coming out, they have cast their ballots. Of course, in one or two instances, in the case of the former Vice President, you had a ballot, a voter card situation there. But our man, Femi Akonde, who is there, hopefully he will report back to us later to let us know what has happened with the card reader situation there. Kemi Foladeyemo, if you can hear me, Kemi is in VGC there on Victoria Island, where the Vice President, you can see him there in white and black cap, waiting to cast his ballot. Kemi, can you say that process is moving the way it should? Because it seems to be a slow movement from what we are watching here.
Yes, Ngozi, slow from the aspect that the INEC team now arrived later than scheduled. The electorate has started arriving as early as 5 a.m. INEC got in at about a few minutes past 9. The Vice President had already sent an advance team ahead, but then came in about 30 minutes ago. Now, as you can see, the Vice President and his wife, Mrs. Dolapo Osinbajo, are right now about to be accredited. It's going to be a process.
Kemi Foladeyemo, we'll get back to you as soon as we can reconnect. So the Vice President, obviously, from what Kemi has just reported, has been there like 30 minutes, and he's yet to do his accreditation
Yes.
and voting. What does that tell you?
He tells me that there is no preferential treatment given to him. He's queuing up like any other person. You can even see a youth copper in 5 months before him. No, there is no sycophancy. Someone would have said, oh, Mr. Vice President, please, I give you my position. Nobody is saying that. Everybody, the place is a leveler.
So when it comes to voting, it's a level.
It's a level place.
It ought to be. I mean, it ought to be, unlike what you saw elsewhere. Unlike what you saw elsewhere.
But 30 minutes, isn't that a lot?
Well, we don't know what they're going through. We don't know what they're
according to Kemi, our correspondent there, it
came in
seems
late.
to be a slow-moving process, in spite of the fact that voters have turned out in large numbers with a lot of enthusiasm.
Maybe they're overwhelmed with the turnout of voters. That's why there is slow process. You know, they didn't arrive on time, so they have not still taken charge of the situation. That's another thing. When you arrive at a station or a place on time, you're able to relax, take charge, watch out for flaws. But now they're in a hurry, they're under tension, they're under pressure. And when you work under pressure, you cannot bring out your best.
Though when some work under pressure, they can actually bring out their best. Can we get that best from INEC?
Well,
with what we're seeing so far.
As I said, you know, then I adopted and I'm still adopting cautious optimism, and I have to be very careful the way I speak and the way I relate to what is happening. It might be a slow process, and trying to reach crescendo. It might be just the way they planned it, or perhaps. But again, at the end of the day, I think what matters is for us to see a very credible process.
Yes, and talking about security, we don't seem to have heard too much so far, at least in other parts, apart from the Gaydam.
This is not when you expect to see anything.
Well, we hope we don't even see any kind of, or experience any kind of security breach in all 36 states of the country. Of course, it must be underscored that in Gaydam, Yobe State, of course, in Maiduguri, in Borno, you've had
one would ordinarily expect
incidences from Boko Haram
yes.
trying to make their presence
yes,
felt.
I would not know what happened to the security architecture there. But ordinarily, one would expect that the security agencies will fortify their presence, and the security gathering, the intelligence gathering will have been at its peak.
All right, let me take you back quickly to Kemi Foladeyemo, who is at the VGC, Victoria Garden City, to report for us. Kemi, good to have you. What can you tell us? We know that the Vice President is there. He's been there, like you said, since about 30 minutes now to get accredited and cast his ballot.
All right. Okay, so the Vice President has arrived. He's there with his wife, Mrs. Dolapo Osinbajo. Now they're walking past. The process is expected to be speedy after the delay by the INEC team, who arrived later than scheduled, at least an hour behind the stipulated time of 8 a.m. All right, now, so he's been accredited at the moment, and then he's expected to walk past after being accredited to go and cast his ballot. Where I am is pretty tight, Ngozi, so you would understand, because many of the press are milling around to capture this major highlights. Now, the electorate here, by the way, are also very expectant. Many of them had come as early as 5 a.m. now and thought the process was going to be much quicker. But nevertheless, INEC had already apologized to the electorate here, saying they were intercepted by the security. When coming here, we also encountered several barricades now of security. The army, of course, were at strategic routes now leading up to the VGC, asking where we were going to. So all that appears to be random, but INEC said that was a big hurdle for them. Any moment from now, the Vice President will cast his ballot and will address the press as to how he feels about the process.
We expect to see the Vice President as he cast his ballot. But Kemi, let me ask you, between accreditation and voting, which we know is pari passu, how long really does it take? Walk us through the process, if you can.
We spoke to a few of the electorate who had cast their ballots. What they said is, and what we have gathered on ground, is that it's actually a smooth process. From the point you are accredited, there will be no delay. You just move on. Once you've been cleared by INEC, you move on to the polling booth where you cast your ballots. It's a seamless process. It's all on the same line, Ngozi. So that's all. The only problem that could be encountered is how INEC will ensure that all of the crowd here will be accredited on time before 2 o'clock, of course, so that nobody will deny or nobody will complain of being exempted from casting his ballot here. The party agent had already also had to ensure that all the materials are clear and that there had been no alterations on them that would have voided the process. As it is now, all seems to be improving, all seems to be clear. There hasn't been any complaint yet. We'll continue to check around. Ngozi.
All right, thank you very much, Kemi Foladeyemo, reporting for us at VGC there, where the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, is with his wife, Dolapo, preparing to cast their ballot. You saw him on the line with his wife earlier, preparing to get accredited and, of course, to vote. According to Kemi, not much of a process in terms of timing from accreditation to voting. But let's go back to the issue that Kemi raised earlier about INEC and the challenges they had, explaining why INEC officials did not turn up at that polling area in VGC as expected. Are we over-policing this whole process? Some would even say that we're over-militarizing, though it's been said over and over again that the military would not be in your face, only in a situation where it is highly required.
Well, what you have in this country is that we really cannot predict what a Nigerian would do at any given time. You see, as we are hoping for a seamless process, there are some that are trying to see how they could manipulate the process to their advantage. And therefore, it is not out of place for the security agencies to be on their guard and to ensure that protected Nigerians don't abuse the process.
Okay, what Kemi did not tell us is where those INEC officials were coming from to VGC, because where I was coming from, we met only one roadblock, and a lot of people were there, but the moment the driver approached one of them and said, "See who we are," within 2 minutes, we were allowed to go. And we are not INEC officials. So you can imagine if we were INEC officials, it would have been faster.
So when INEC officials have this kind of challenge, what happens to mere mortals?
No, the point is, my colleague has not factored in the conspiracy theory, the aspect that Nigerians could even manipulate. You remember, I think it was yesterday, I read that a police officer was caught with a vehicle being branded into police color.
Yes, somewhere in Ilorin or so.
Yes. So such a situation, like when I was coming, yes, I was able to identify myself that, look, I was on electoral duty, I have an election duty. Yet they still wanted me to identify myself. They asked for my identity card. I gave them. I also gave them my voter's card. Because you never can see Nigerians.
Yes, indeed. Now, from all indication, from reports from VGC there, and of course Ali Mosho earlier from Olawakon, our correspondent there, it seems that the voting time will definitely be extended beyond the 2 o'clock. Of course, it's a given that if you're on the line, if you're within the voting...
And that everyone has freedom. I think it's a very...
Okay, we lost audio there. Hopefully we can reconnect as quickly as possible so we can hear the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo speak as he...
Of course, I mean, of course there are homeowners, there are persons who are renting, there are staff.
All right, well, we tried to sort that problem. INEC election guidelines, this election does come with a number of guidelines. I wonder how much of these guidelines really are clear to the average voter. What to do, the do's and the don'ts at the polling area. Of course, one of...
Came in a bit later than scheduled. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I'm not, I don't want to really comment about that yet, because again, I'm not familiar with all of that. As soon as I came, I saw that we were being put in batches. I came in the second batch and I voted. Thank you very much.
Your message to Nigeria.
All right, the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, with a smile on his face, he has voted. We missed a bit of what the question was and his reaction in the course of the coverage. Of course, we'll get to hear in full what the Vice President thinks about the process so far. But you can actually tell from his body language that as far as he's concerned, it's going on well.
Yes, he appeared satisfied. He appeared from his body language, like he said, he appeared satisfied. The smile on his face also demonstrates that he was satisfied. The important thing is that he has done his civic responsibility and he's moving on to his house.
Absolutely. Moving on to his house, just like we were told by the IG, that, just vote peacefully and go home. And now, voting time, I was talking about that. It's likely to be extended because if we're to go by the reports we got from VGC here in Lagos, Limosho and other areas, it might go beyond, way beyond the 2
Ngozi, I may not know what you're trying to convey by saying that it will be extended. The point is that you have to be there before 2 o'clock.
Yes, and if you're not there before 2 o'clock,
yes,
you will not be allowed to vote. I was trying to even talk about the INEC guidelines, the do's and don'ts around the voting area, and the point of whether the average voter has a very clear understanding of the do's and don'ts around the voting, the polling units, in a way that he will not find himself
violating any.
Violating any.
Yeah, I like to believe so, because even if you don't know, by the time you get there, you'll be told. And there are agents of political parties there. There are law enforcement agents there. And you also have electors themselves who are there, who are familiar with the process. And if you are seen or perhaps you are noticed not to be complying with the guidelines, and I think you'll be educated. You'll be educated.
Now, let's not forget the IDPs in Buniyadi who complained seriously. They actually protested yesterday about possibility of being disenfranchised because the polling unit, the polling area was relocated to Damaturu.
Yeah, and Damaturu is the state capital. Damaturu is the state capital of Yobe.
So now, do you think that's typical of what could happen with so many people disenfranchised because of the issue of relocating or people actually transferring? That's another problem.
Yes, I think
entirely. That
maybe one of the reasons why they relocated to Damaturu is because of security. You can see how some villages were sacked by Boko Haram and they are not able to vote. Maybe there were fears that the IDPs may also be bombed and they will not be able to vote, and then it has to be brought to Damaturu. However, provision should have been made for them to be brought to Damaturu and ensure that they also vote, because they are Nigerians, they have equal right like any other person. And if already they have been denied of their homes by Boko Haram, they should also be denied of voting.
Good point, very well made there. Oh, it's about 11 o'clock already. Let me hand you over now to Veronica Danipoyo to give us the news. All right, welcome back to our special coverage of Nigeria Votes. As you've been seeing, so much has been happening in the last 30 minutes or so ago. You just saw the national leader of the APC cast his ballot there in the Alausa area of Lagos in the person of Bola Tinubu. Earlier, you saw Oshibajo, the Vice President, Yemi Oshibajo, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, cast his vote at the VGC, Victoria Island Axis. And of course, Fashola too, the Minister for Power, Works and Housing, you saw him cast his ballot, though there was some kind of a little bit of a struggle for him, you know, trying to manage that ballot paper. Understandably so, because so many candidates on the ballot, about 73 or so on the ballot, how challenging really that could be. Jenimba Falabi is still my guest here in the studio, and of Dr. Fasi Yusuf. Thank you so much. You've been watching, seeing the developments in the last 30 minutes. Let's even take it from where the national leader of the APC, Bola Tinubu, said that democracy is difficult
to manage and to maintain.
Yes, it's very tough.
Expensive.
It is expensive, but it is a good way of achieving democratic representation, according to him. And so far, so good. He says it's been successful, talking about the voting process so far based on what he has observed. And he did not fail to praise the resilience of Nigerians who, in spite of the postponement, have turned out. They've turned up in their large numbers to actually to cast their ballot. Let me take it from you, Dr. Fasi Yusuf.
Yeah, I said it all, and as I said, you know, democracy is the way to go, and the road could be blazed with mines, thorns, difficulties, problems, tribulations, and all the rest. The important thing is for us to have a focus, to know where we're going, and for us to know how to get there. Last Saturday, we realized at 2 a.m. that we could not go that way. So we had to put it all to it, and 1 week extension. Here we are today, we're having the election, and from all intents and purposes, things are going on fine. Some started late. Yeah, they'll catch up, because if you want to vote, you have from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. to be there. I mean, in any case, the criterion will stop at 12 noon. But then, if you get there, even if it's extended beyond 3 or 4, you are still in a position to vote as long as you are there. So I believe that at the end of the day, we should be able to congratulate ourselves. I want to be cautiously optimistic.
Still cautiously optimistic. But it's how many hours into the process already?
Well, you said just about 4 hours. I mean, 3.5 hours.
Yes, about 3.5 hours. Started about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, but you know,
yes,
this is not the end of the game.
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely
the
not.
counting, the transmission, the collation, and all the rest.
It's going to take a long process. Now, do you agree when the Jagaban says, yes, it's the best way, but a difficult way to choose our leaders?
Of course, democracy is expensive, more so when money is involved. Campaigns are not cheap. Billboards are not cheap. when you go around the 36 states, for those serious-minded ones anyway, to campaign, you know it costs a lot of money. So maybe that's why. And maintaining even the National Assembly, the State Assembly, with the allowances that go with all of that, it is expensive. However, he said something that caught my attention. He said a true Democrat is somebody who should accept the result of an election.
That was in response to the question as to what he would do if his party, for some reason or the other, does not win the election. And according to him, he says, I will accept the people's verdict. Any Democrat that cannot accept a free and fair election is not worthy to be called a Democrat.
That's what I'm saying. I like his choice of words. And 2 words stood out: free and fair. Those are the conditions for a true Democrat to accept the results of the election. So if the election is seen as not to be true and fair, then the results may not be accepted.
Now that may be where the challenge will rear its head.
Well,
to what extent really will the outcome at the end of the day be acceptable from all that you have been reading so far, and especially as the day has been going on, and it seems to a very large extent that it's going on in a very decent way, for want of a better word.
There are 3 indices, 3 parameters: credible, free, and fair. So once the process is able to meet this criteria, these 3 criteria, these 3 indices, then I don't think anybody who is a Democrat will say otherwise.
Do you envisage post-election litigation? How huge would it be? Some 250 election tribunal judges, of course, have been inaugurated and all of that. Do you think we're going to see a lot of post-election issues?
We have seen pre-election litigations, and we are going to see even many more post-election litigations, because Nigerians by nature, we don't accept defeat easily. And more so, a lot of politicians see politics as a a money-making venture. They have invested. So if they lose, they think about the loss that would come with the failure in the election. And so they will want to do everything to say it's not credible, it's not free, it's not fair, and they want to go to court. They may not have the evidence, and that's why court is good, the law is blind. Whatever you claim, whatever you allege, you have to come and prove with solid evidence.
But isn't there something fundamentally wrong with what some people have actually referred to as judicialization of electoral outcomes? That we seem to be now leaving it to the courts to decide, and not the ballot box, not the electorate, who really should be the final arbiter when it comes to choosing who to
well, the courts are there
represent them.
to arbitrate, and because it's just that the path we have chosen in this part of the world. Elsewhere, yes, we have litigations and all the rest, but most politicians learn to accept defeat. So even if you don't agree with the process, you let it be bygone, and therefore you move on with your life. But here we are, because the stakes are quite high, and a lot of premium has been placed on the political process, and then people believe that, well, if I'm not there, I've lost out. Let me be there, and if I cannot be there through the ballot paper, perhaps the court could come to my aid. So it's an exploratory thing, and people try to explore the situation, perhaps overburdening the process.
Why are the stakes so high?
Yeah, because it is winner takes all. And again, the politicians in Nigeria have seen it as a way of amassing wealth, as a way of personal aggrandizement, and they believe that if I'm there, I can recoup all what I've spent, and I can also exchange patronage to people around me.
Janet, in going into this election, what really do you think would be the main, are the key issues for the average voter as he goes to cast his ballot? Earlier, you did talk about the issue of restructuring and all of that. We have not really broached that much in the course of our discourse this morning. But really, what do you think it should be the primary thing in the mind of the voter as he goes to cast his ballot today?
As the voters go out to cast their votes today, I think they should, the first thing that should come to their mind is that they should make their votes count. They should use their vote to elect the leaders they truly want. Not even the presidential alone. A lot of people are concentrating on presidential election and leaving out the National Assembly.
Which is going on today.
Which is going on today too. And many of these voters do not even know those who represent them at the Senate. They don't ask questions. They don't come together to meet them and say, this is what we want, and then hold them accountable for the money they may have been collecting on their behalf. So I think they should concentrate on the National Assembly, the Senate.
And when we talk about democratic representation, that really is the core.
That is the core. That is the core, not even the federal. The federal is for everybody, the father of everybody. But these senators, these House of Rep members are your people. They are the people you see. You may not see the president till he leaves office, but you see your senator, you will see your House of Rep. So that should be paramount in their minds. And then you don't sell your vote. Because once you sell your vote, many of these voters, when they buy it, they are under no obligation to serve your interests, because you have sold it. But the mistake voters make is that they believe that the money they get from the vote is their own benefit. But it's a short-term benefit for a long-term suffering.
Well, can you really blame the average voter who believes he's not really getting the benefits or dividends of democracy? And so when an opportunity provides itself, whether it's 10,000 or 500 naira or whatever the amount is, or a bag of rice, might as well, just take it. And it reminds me of this refrain, what we keep hearing every time: oh, collect their money, but vote your conscience. Is that even possible?
Yes,
you have compromised by collecting the money.
Some people do that. They collect, but they
our people do that. Right? You find that mostly with the rural people and the not too affluent members of the society. For example, now, if they give somebody like you Ngozi 5,000 naira, what's that going to do to you when you earn millions of naira a month? So it won't mean anything to you. But to those people there, where 500 naira counts, 1,000 naira counts, so if they give them 5,000 naira, they'll collect. So if you cannot eradicate it, perhaps you don't have a way of proving it, then we just ask them, take the money, but vote your conscience.
And my question remains, is it even possible that that will happen, that people will actually collect the money and still vote their conscience? But let's even come to the overall, the discourse as to, what you referred to earlier, the issue of the governance, our governance system that comes at a very, very huge cost.
You see,
should that be part of what should guide the voter as he goes to the polls?
Ordinarily, it should be, but the electors have not been really educated on what to expect from them. What would we find during this process of electioneering and all the rest? There's been a lot of mudslinging and all the rest, character assassination and what have you. Not really as to what I can do or what we will do when we get there. This one is this one is not performing, this one is a lame dog, this one is a thief, this one is an armed robber, this one came to my house, he stole from my house yesterday, this one did not perform, he's sleeping there and not. For God's sake, I think our sensibilities were assaulted and insulted.
All right, I'll put you on hold, yes. Dr. Yusuf. Let's take a quick breather, and when we come back, we'll continue with this discussion. Stay with us. All right, from Katsina to Adamawa, from Benue to Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Abia, and every part of the country, all 36 states of the Federation, Nigerians have been turning out in their large numbers, very, very impressive numbers, in spite of the fact that in the course of the press reviews, press briefings by the INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakub, he did indicate that 11 million Nigerians did not pick their PVCs out of the 84 million registered Nigerians. And obviously, the issue or concerns about voter apathy may not necessarily be the case if we're to go by what we have been seeing so far this morning. Janet and Dr. Fasi Yusuf, thank you so much for remaining with us. Let's go to the issue of the persons living with disabilities. Yes, their case there in Calabar, where they actually complained that in spite of annex assurances and reassurances that they will not be left behind, they will not be disenfranchised in this electoral process. That doesn't seem to be the case with this visually challenged who have been complaining in Calabar. Dr.
Well,
Yusuf?
I think it would be unfortunate if INEC cannot walk the talk, because they said everything has been done, every arrangement or every logistic has been put in place to attend to their needs. So if you are hearing something else, I think they will need to explain to us, they will need to tell us why that is so, that it will be unfortunate. Nobody should be disenfranchised. No.
I think it would be unfair on the blind if they are disenfranchised, despite all the assurances. And from what the guy we saw on TV has said, it does not appear that there is any provision for them. So what INEC should do now is to show us, perhaps go out of their way and make videos of where these people have voted. If the people who are not disabled, who able-bodied people are still queuing up now, you know, in large numbers, and there is no provision for the blind and disabled, then at what point are they going to do that?
And they were supposed to be given priority.
And they were supposed to be given priority,
INEC.
the pregnant, the elderly, and which other category now? And the disabled.
The disabled.
Yes.
Now let's begin even to look at the numbers before we coast home this morning. 51% of the 84 million registered Nigerians, actually the youth between the ages of 15 and 35. Do you get a sense, really, that the youth are at on the driving seat as far as the process of choosing our leaders are concerned?
Well, I mean, that's the way it should be, and that's the way nature has made it. As population, expands, then you see more of the youth and all the rest.
But have they made their presence known in this process?
I mean, that's the question. I mean, that's the question, whether they've been able to do that. And again, whether they have been listened to and all the rest. So if you have a youth who has come out to lay claim to a particular office, whether he's able to mobilize people, his peers and all the rest, I may not know. But then it is necessary that maybe in the next dispensation, if the one much is done, we've seen a lot of youths who are out, or who are contesting, where they may not make
mostly at the presidential level, though.
No, at all levels.
Well, yes, at all levels, but the one that's really in your face.
Whether they'll be able to make any difference or not, that's another thing. We'll see at the end of the day. I mean, it's too early now to start looking really at statistics. So maybe at the end of the day, we'll see. And if they do not, maybe perhaps they will need to re-strategize.
And I wonder what kind of strategy, really, the youth can put in place, in spite of the fact that a not too young to run bill had been signed into law. And did that even come too late? Was it enough to give a push to young people? Do they even realize the kind of power they hold?
Youth is power. But I wonder if they really know that. And they have the number, and they have the stamina, they have the strength, and they have the drive. If they could come together, and I think the major challenge is money politics. If you remove money from politics, because money is a key variable in determining who participates in electoral, politics. If there were no money politics, a lot of youth will come out and they will mobilize their groups and they will win elections. But because the system we are running is not that way, we are placing money as a priority. And so if you don't have money, but you have a godfather who has money to sponsor you, then you will go far. But the youths, they have the number. I hope they could be pushed by the not too young to run, and then they get more serious and begin to mobilize themselves, begin to motivate themselves, and not be bothered by the situation they may be faced now. Many of them are unemployed. Necessity is a mother of invention, so they could turn things around if they are serious-minded.
If they are serious-minded. So how can we begin to change the narrative?
Well, I think another way is for the youth to be able to agree among themselves who to put forward. By the time you have too many youths out there, it becomes difficult for them to achieve their mission. So they must be able to decide, look, okay, among us, who should we put forward? And I think that will do the magic, because they they cannot really have the financial muscle as those who are already entrenched in the system.
Janet just talked about, money politics,
yes,
and how it is likely to actually endanger our democratic process.
Yes, in fact, throughout Nigerian history, political history, money has been a key factor. I mean, even in the First Republic, even pre-independence, the same thing, a lot of money. You remember that time, the post-1960, the skywriting and all the rest, one of the candidates going with helicopters and all the rest. And a lot of money is involved. So if you have many youths coming out, and yet they cannot aggregate, they cannot put their resources together to fight a common cause, then the youth will still continue to be sidelined. And
of course, INEC has actually been taken to court for not insisting or deploying its empowerment by the Electoral Act to actually put a cap on presidential election
yes.
campaign funding.
From what we know in this country,
1 billion naira.
Yes, it's pretty difficult because this system, the checks and balances are still a bit porous. Because you discover that in Nigeria, somebody will be doing something for you, you are not capturing it. It's pretty difficult to know. So somebody is printing posters for you, somebody is doing outdoor advertising for you, somebody is doing a social media campaign for you, and all the rest. Those aspects have not been captured, and they've not been brought into the system to really know how much they are really worth. So it's going to be difficult that one, unless perhaps the campaign fund, or you have a dedicated campaign fund where that could be seen and they could be monitored.
Janet, you have the last word as we wrap the first leg of this coverage.
Yes, I think that political process requires funding. However, lavish funding is what I do not support, because some people are now saying that politics has become the game of the rich. They are playing it to maneuver the electoral behavior of the poor and the youth. And that is what we are seeing and what is happening now. But so far, so good. There had been, the process has been going on smoothly, the voting process, and we hope that it continues. By tomorrow, we still want to hear stories of harmony. We don't want to hear stories of violence and conflicts.
And that's a good place to leave it. Jane Mba Afolabi, thank you so much for joining us this morning on our special election coverage as Nigeria votes. And Dr. Fasi Yusuf, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Dr. Fasi Yusuf, of course, is a lawyer, and Jane Mba is a journalist. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll see you again very soon. TVC News, you can be sure, will continue round the clock all across 36 states of the Federation. Our correspondents are everywhere to give you live updates as they happen this special day. I'm Ngozi Alebu signing out. See you soon.